and et cetera, et cetera. So I'm the professor of this class. We also have a TA and a tutor that is supposed to sit somewhere either here or here. And I think he's available on Tuesdays also. And if you are not sure exactly, then everything regarding the tutor should be on Canvas. So let's see when did he say he's available. So his name is Terry. He says he's gonna sit either here or here. I guess it's here because it's dark there. And he said he's free on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. Now, if you get here and you can't find him, you can email him. So he should be around. His email is, well, I'll put his email right here. Okay, so that's if you have any issues setting up Unity with, with the projects and so on. Well, let's get back to that. So that's just logistics. Again, this class has this grading rubric, so it's mostly projects. There are quizzes. Regarding quizzes, we do have a quiz due next week. So if you go into the syllabus and you say, let's go week 3. So week 3 is you're supposed to have a quiz. Again, this is not working well. Okay, so you're supposed to have a quiz next week. The quiz will cover everything we do in class. All the materials I link on Canvas. It will probably be a multi-choice quiz with a couple of things you need to write or sketch. And I hope I remember to send you a reminder on that in the next few days. So you should be pretty good if you manage to follow the class and you kind of set up Unity and you do some basic scripting. It should be fine. Oh, let's open that door. Okay. Any questions so far? It's just logistics. No? Okay. So we talked about that, syllabus. So yeah, everything is going to be on Canvas. Okay. Yes, so this is something that may appear in the quiz. So I actually linked materials on this on Canvas. So diagrams. So when you design any kind of user app, you sometimes start with a user flow. Like say there's a right button click and then there's a left button click and that will say draw a sphere or something. So here's an example. So this is like a user flow for the first default project. So here you have for example, painting. So you can start and if there's a right click, then it creates an object. If it's still clicking, it creates more and more objects and so on. It ends. So in the quiz, you'll probably get one of the assignments will be to draw a diagram. Okay, so don't be surprised if you get that next week, but just kind of just study it for a little bit, so you're not shocked. Again, I'm going to link on how kind of materials on how to go over this ad on Canvas. So project examples, usually it's going to be painting, but you can also create your own project if you wish. So how would you do that? Well, you first of all need to, okay, so what I did, let's go on Canvas. So if you go on Canvas, there's on week 2, you should all have this. There's an assignment called Project 1 Ideation. Okay? So if you can open it and read it through right now. It's very hot here, but I'm not sure what to do about it. So let's zoom in here. So you can just read it for the next 30 seconds. Let me check what's happening with this AC. So there's two two paths you can take. You can either do something very similar to what we do in class, which is a painting style app. And the other option is kind of a custom app. So some people do like a mini game, some people do some sort of educational thing. That's usually like the kind of choices people go with. I guess 80% will probably go with the paint style app. Now, if you go with the default paint style app, that means you cannot just do a copy of exactly what we do in class. You still need to vary it in some manner. So how do you know if your proposal is good enough? Well, we have this assignment. So once you fill this in, we'll go over it and see if whatever you say makes sense or not, okay? So this is the assignment. So the deadline for this is, well, September 16th, so I guess that's next week at 6 p.m. So try to finish it before you start working on project number 1, okay? Any questions? Okay. So what do I want to talk about today? Let's see. Okay, let's talk a little bit about colors and images. Okay, so in Unity, everything we are gonna do is gonna result in an image. So say like if you go to, this is like say the project we had like last week. And if I click play here, and this is like an image, as you can see here. So everything is an image in the end of the day. So it's kind of important to talk a little bit about what an image is. So an image is basically like a 2D array. You heard about arrays before, right? You should have taken some sort of programming class. So an array, it's a 2D array. So basically it's an array with an X and Y coordinate. And each of these cells in the array has a color. You kind of think that when you look at the image, you perceive this, but actually behind the scenes, it's some sort of more kind of discrete, kind of coarse data. So, and more exactly, it's kind of like a sample of that space. So the only reason it's a cube because that's how the screen works. That's basically the hardware of the screen. It just takes in on the shape of this kind of rectangle or cube, but it's just a sample of this color in that specific space. So we have all kinds of tools that can display images, like LCDs or CRTs if you were born 20, 30 years ago, and VR and so on. So that's like, I guess, enough background for images. There's more details here, but I'm going to skip this because that's not necessary right now. Another thing I want you to know about is color, because we will start talking about color pretty soon. So what is color? Color is basically 3 channels of color. So there's like, it's called RGB. Probably you've heard about this before. So that's red, green, and blue. And to create any kind of color you see here on the screen, you need to kind of input values from 0 to 255 for each of these channels, okay? So if everything is 0, then like what you get is this point right here, so which is black. And as you go all the way to 255 on all these channels, you'll get like a white, okay? So if you draw a line between this point and this point, it's basically a grayscale from black to white. Okay. So why am I telling you about this? Because in your assignments or projects and so on, one user flow may be, oh, I want to switch up the color or do something with color and so on. So this is basically what color is. Any questions on color or images? It's like a very rough intro. No? Yes? Maybe? If you're confused, others will be confused too. But so it's a good. So what's going to happen is each pixel here that you have like in your image will have a color, and that color is basically just these 3 values. Let's watch a quick video on color, if this works. May not work. Are you gonna work?
If I were to ask you what colors the squares of A and B were, I imagine most of you would quickly say that A is a darker shade of gray than B. But what if I told you that A and B were actually the same color? It's okay if you don't see that. This picture is designed to trick our visual system. But once we have a connector of the common color between the two squares, it's much easier for us to see that they are in fact the same color. So what's going on here? Over the years, scientists have developed a human visual system model through the study of our eyes, and one incredibly interesting finding through experimentation is that our eyes are much more sensitive to brightness than they are to colors. And part of the JPEG compression scheme can take advantage of this, but to understand how, we have to dive into the world of color spaces. As we've discussed, the RGB color space is a combination of red, green, and blue color components. If we put each value on a separate axis in a three-dimensional space, we can see how all the possible colors are just a point on this cube. One aspect of RGB color space is as you progress on the diagonal from the origin to the color 255, 255, 255, you get gradually brighter colors. And in fact, the exact line between these points defines all possible grayscale colors, which are a direct measure for brightness.
Okay, so that was just reiterating the color scheme. There's other color spaces which you don't really need to know about for this class. We do cover them in more advanced classes, but what you need to be familiar with is just the red, green, and blue kind of scheme. So we'll skip that. You don't need that to know that. Okay. So now we are. Let's move on. So what I want to do now is kind of put in more advanced features here into this script. So let's actually let's stop this. So important thing, every time is you're doing any changes, you need to stop the Unity app. And now what I want to do is I want to create a script that's not connected to any specific object here. So already I have like a cube here, a sphere, and a cylinder. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create like another object, but it's like an empty object. So it doesn't have any physical or virtual presence. So the way to do it is right-click here on the hierarchy, right? And there's a create empty. Okay? And I'm going to call this empty object, let's call it click manager. Okay? So it still has a kind of, you can still drag it and so on, but it's not, doesn't have any kind of, there's no way you can visualize it, right? It's like kind of like a point. Now, click manager, it's not a sphere, it's not a cube, it's just like a 3D Unity object that I'm going to use to kind of do more advanced scripting operations. So let's add a new script here. And let's call this painting. Okay, so completely new script. Okay, so I have this script. It's kind of creating those all those links. Now to be more organized, I want to create a folder here that has all my scripts, because I already have two scripts and it's all kind of in the top asset folder. So let's right click here and do create and do folder. And let's call this scripts. Okay, and I'm going to drag this test script from before and the painting script to scripts. Okay. So now all my scripts are in this folder, and I can just access it by double clicking or clicking here. Any questions so far? Should be pretty easy. We didn't do anything serious yet. So let's go into this painting script. Now, just to check that everything is connected, again, I'm going to do something very simple. I'm just going to do debug log and painting script starting. So that, like, if I were like a novice user, or like I'm just starting up a new app, I'm not sure what I'm doing, not sure if it's working, I'm just gonna print, see that everything is okay. So let's do that. Okay. And I can see it here. So if I go to my project, console, painting script starting. So okay, so it's working. So now what I want to do, I want to basically start baby stepping into a painting app. So to do those baby steps, I want to use this update function. So what the idea is, I want to have every time I'm gonna left click or right click, I want something to happen, right? I want to paint or something. So let's do like if on mouse. Actually, let me check what was my test script right here. Oh, so I had on mouse down, okay. And let's see if I want to do the same thing. If on dot get mouse button, okay, and then there's gonna be a 0, and that's just debug log. So I'm gonna explain what this means in a second. Left button, left mouse button, clicked. Okay, and I think let's check else if. Let's check if this works actually. Else if is 1, then this will mean right mouse button. Clicked. Okay, so instead of as we had in the test script previously, we had this on mouse button function, and then it did something when we clicked. You can just have it under update. It's very similar. And here you just, but then you can't use the same function. You have to kind of structure it like so. So input.get mouse button. So the difference is this is going to be like a left click, and this is going to be a right click. So let's play it and see that everything is working, and I'm not telling you silly things. Okay, so yeah, so left click is working, right click is also working. Cool. So let's show you this code again. Okay, so now that we have both left and right click working, let's have it so it creates a sphere or some sort of primitive object every time I do a left or right click, okay? So the way to do it is, and to save kind of lines, I would do something like this. So what I did here is just added this OR statement. So if either of these buttons are clicked, and what I want to do now is let's do primitive. Oh, let me just check what I did before. Okay, yeah. So everything in Unity is a game object, okay? So let's go here. So this is a game object, the camera is a game object, this light is a game object, this cube is a game object, this sphere is a game object. Everything you see here is a game object, okay? So if you want to create a new sphere, that means you need to create a new game object. So let's do that. So let's do that with the script. So game object, let's call this test equals new, and then like we need to create a new game object somehow, right? So the way to do it is, there's like a quick API in Unity for that. Game object, create primitive, and there's a sphere. So it looks like I'm doing it pretty quick, but I'm not. What is happening? And let me slow myself down. So the moment I type equals, okay, it already knows that I need to, whatever is going to be on the right-hand side is going to be a game object. So let's type game object. So the moment you type dot here, it already shows me a list of all kinds of function calls that I can do that reside in this game object kind of API. So it already has this create primitive kind of functionality. So I don't need to invent it. I'm just going to reuse this API. And I'm going to do open paren, and then I can just kind of fill in whatever is available here. So here I can fill in either like a sphere, a capsule, cylinder, and there's all these other stuff I can also use. But right now I'm just going to do a sphere. So that's how I kind of modify the script slightly. Okay, and this is also something you should know. So say you want to have some sort of variable that kind of is static, right? And it's not just inside this, lives inside the script when it's in this function. So what I did is I created this variable called click position, right? So it's not a good name, but nevertheless. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just, every time I left click or right click, I'm going to assign this object that I'm creating, this sphere, to click position. But I'm also going to change click position so it moves slightly by 0.1. Okay? So I can also actually make it pretty smaller like this. Okay? So every time I left click, I'm assigning my primitive to that position, click position, and I'm also moving click position slightly. So now you can get like this effect that looks like this. Okay, so every time I left click, my spheres will just kind of accumulate and accumulate and accumulate. Okay, so you get almost this kind of capsule-like thing. Okay, so again, it's a very small change, but I just wanted to show you how to use kind of these primitives or statics. Okay, all I did is I created this public vector here. So why is it public? Well, it doesn't have to be. I'm going to explain, I guess, maybe in the next class why I have it public. It's actually I can explain it now. So let's save this. I have this click position parameter here in my painting class, right? So if it's public, that means I can modify it here under this script kind of tab, okay? So again, let me show this again. If it's public, that means I can actually change it from here, okay? So let's make this a bit more reusable. And let's maybe like just change it to be 2 here and 1 here, whatever. So I can actually modify it. And then when I click play, that way I can control where it starts kind of the painting. I can actually change it to be 7. So it will paint a little bit like, so I will not even see it if it's 7. Let's bring it back to 0. Maybe let's change this to be 5. So you can see you can change where you start painting. Again, this is just it's nothing fancy right now, but it is kind of it's going to be useful pretty soon. So that's like anything that's public you can kind of control from this thing. And let me show you another cool fact. So if I click play, okay, and now I can paint it here, right? But I can also now, okay, I can decide, okay, I don't want it to be here anymore. Let's change this to be, I don't know, 0. And now it's going to be here. Okay, and I say I want it to be a bit lower, so I can change this to be like -2. And then it could be here, okay? So it's kind of a think of it as like a very simple user interface which allows you to change things as the code is running or before the code is running. Okay, and all I did is I added this vector click position. I did like test.transform.position equals click position. That means my primitive is basically, I'm assigning it the position of click position, and then I'm just adding a small value to click position here all the time. And I can do more fun stuff. I can just make it like a bit lower even, and so on. You won't even see it. Any questions on this? Any questions at all? The sphere right on top of the camera, which is silly. It's kind of blocking it. And why does it do so? It's because I'm just doing like camera.main.screen to world point. It just basically puts it on top of the camera, which is kind of bad. Um, so I need to change this somehow. Any ideas? Yeah.
It's painting them right on top of the camera.
Right. Yeah.
You have to add an offset that pushes it forward from where the camera is.
Okay. So let's try that. So I'm not exactly sure what for this, but I will. What I was gonna do is I'm gonna just add a new vector and see if that helps. I don't know, 0, 0, -1. Okay. I'm just this may not work. I'm just adding kind of code here which may or may not work. So don't rush to copy whatever I'm doing. Not exactly. So that also didn't work well. Let's try this way. Okay, it's still not working. So I did do what people suggested here, but that kind of just moved it. It still put it on top of the camera, but didn't really help me much. Any other ideas of what I should do? Again, the problem is I'm trying to use the camera, but it's instead of kind of
Oh, I think I got it.
right. Go ahead.
You want to have it as, I did it as just camera.main.screen to world point input.mouse position plus a new vector 3 with 20f. So just adjusting the z value.
Okay, so
I think it just might have to be a higher value.
okay,
So for the third one.
so like 20 here.
I did positive 20,
Okay, let's try that.
but I think negative might put it back to.
Okay, yeah, you may be right. Let's do positive 20. Again, as you can see, this is very kind of cumbersome. This is not clean. Okay, so this actually works. Thank you. So a lot of things in Unity are trial and error. Okay, you may be completely right, but you just forgot you have the wrong number. Okay, so let's explain what happened here. So what's happening here? I wanna have the sphere when I'm painting be where my mouse is. So let's say my mouse is here. I want it to be painted here. Before that, I had a bug. It was just painting right on top of the camera. So the quick fix for this bug is just to push the sphere forward. So here I just kind of how do you do that? How do you push the spheres forward? Well, where's the code? You just add another vector here. Okay, and the vector has 3 dimensions, has an x and a y and a z. So first of all, you need to figure out what is forward, like x or y or z could be forward. It all depends. So here, luckily, z is forward, and I just added 20 here. Now, you can play around with it, and you can make it like a 10, and then you'll get a different result. So if you put like a 10, then it'll just make the spheres kind of closer to the camera as you paint. Okay? Any questions? Okay, so let me see if there's anything else I want to say about this specific point. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to just okay, so this is super important point. So everybody should have this code working, because this is basically the bare minimum for any kind of painting app or any kind of Project One app. You need to get this working so you can have some sort of user interaction. It is I separated it so there's two. It's like a small diff here. So I have two functions. I have a left click will paint spheres, okay, and a right click will paint cylinders, okay. That's one thing I did. The other thing I did is instead of like having this kind of hard coded the distance from which we paint, I created a variable called distance, and made it public. So you can change it like whenever you want, from this, where is this? From here. So you can basically change it to be closer or kind of further away. So basically, the larger this value is, the smaller you'll see it because it's further away. The closer it is, the larger it's going to be. Okay. So so right click will paint cylinders, left click will paint spheres. Now a new thing like I want you to pay attention to is when you're creating these things, you can notice that I got my cylinders to be destroyed after a while. So let's talk about how that happens. So first of all, why would I want to destroy something? Okay. So when I'm painting here, you can notice this is super messy. There's like a lot of these spheres here. So you can imagine a workflow where like the user just paints and paints and paints and paints and paints, and as he's painting, this kind of is going to crush the computer's memory and like maybe eventually kind of break Unity, right? So the idea is maybe we don't need all these objects all the time, so we can just destroy them or kind of clear them as we're painting. So the way to do it with Unity is called destroy. I'm just going to add this destroy. So destroy is an object that you can either destroy it immediately or with some sort of delay. So I'm just going to destroy this object and say after 2 seconds. So this destroys game object test after 2 seconds. Okay, so that's what 2F is for. And when I click here, it will destroy the cylinders after 2 seconds, as you can see. So you can like really do a lot of damage here, but nothing is permanent, so it will just destroy it. Any questions on that? Okay. Now another cool thing that I want to show is so we saw how to create spheres and cylinders, but what if you want to create like want to paint like some sort of different game object, or maybe even before that, what if you want to like randomize the object you're painting with? So what I can do is so we have this transform.position, right? So let's see if we can use that to kind of randomize the size of the game object we're painting with. So let's like do test.transform scale, local scale, and see if that gets us, and let's just maybe see if this works. No? So local scale, let me remember how I do the local scale. Yeah.
On my end, I think you might have to, for vector 3 step, I don't know if Unity lets you just edit one component of it.
Right.
I did it like this kind of thing, yeah. I just multiplied it by a random number between the range.
Okay. So let me just check if this works, but that's what I was going to do. So I'll just make it. So what I'm playing out right now is if I have my cylinder, I'm just going to make it the same scale as before, but otherwise I'm going to kind of multiply the x scale by 5. Let's see if this works. So this works. So yeah, you can see I got a really kind of chubby cylinder. So now let's take the next step here and make it random. So right now I just multiply this 5. But let's, how do you do randomness in Unity? Well, there's a function called random. Let's see. So it says the minimum would be like say 1, and let's make the maximum 5. Okay. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace each of these scale parameters by that random range. And I hope this will not break my code. I think it should work, even though it kind of yells at me. Yeah, it does work. So you can see I get like this really random cylinders. Okay. Let's make it so it's like a little bit less kind of crazy. Okay. So as I'm painting, I'm just getting different cylinders. You know, you can see small cylinders, large cylinders, and so on. It's really kind of quirky. Any questions on that? And to get that randomness in the scale of the cylinder, all I needed to do was do like this use this local scale feature under transform, and then do new vector that basically generates like this kind of random numbers from 1 to 3 for x, 0.5 to 2 for y, 0.5 to 2 for z. Okay. Any questions on that? Yeah.
We can find this in the painting.txt or painting.cs file in your files on your canvas.
Is it there already?
I'm looking at it. It looks like a more complete version.
So yeah, I need to check it. I didn't check it yet, but maybe, yeah, could be. Yeah, could be already there. Yeah. Up here. Yeah. Up here. So distance basically controls the how far or how close I'm painting. So if it's 5, it will be very close. If it's like 15 or 25, it'll be very far. Okay. And use this distance, I'm just gonna add it here in this kind of position. So instead of like just using the camera, I'm just adding space in front of the camera, and that space that I'm adding depends on this distance. So new vector, blah, 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 distance. Any other questions? So yes, I might already have put a version of this code on Canvas. Someone said so. So you can check out Canvas if you want a more complete version. Let me check if there's any other thing I want to talk about today. Yeah, so one important thing I want to say is, as I'm creating this code, I'm using all these like silly variable names, so it doesn't really matter. You can call this spawn, right? It doesn't matter the name of the game object that you're using, but you just have to be consistent. And it also needs to be something that you can easily like follow up if you have a bug, and you can edit later. Okay, one more thing, and then we can finish, I think. Let's see, actually. I just want to kind of have you pay attention that, like, in addition, so we talked about test.transform and position. This is like, you know, the position of the object, right? This is the position of the object. And we have test.transform.local scale. So this is kind of the scale of the object. scale of the object in XYZ. Now we can also do other things with this. So yeah, so your home task is to figure out how to change the rotation with scripts. I'll put it on Canvas. It's not that big of a deal. Okay? And I'll put a version of this code on Canvas so you can like try it at home. And I'm also recording this session so you can also play it through at home. So you can hear my voice and it can put you to sleep if you have trouble sleeping at night, okay? Okay, good.
Professor?
Yeah,
Can you just go to back to the question?
yeah.